Many of our people do not realize how firmly the foundation of our faith has been laid. Light was given that helped us to understand the Scriptures in regard to Christ, His mission, and His priesthood. A line of truth extending from 1844 to the time when we shall enter the city of God was made plain.
Hey everybody, I got a very special program today. I am here in Indianapolis and going to be interviewing and talking to a brother that lives here and is working here with a ministry, Juan173.org. And there's a lot of exciting things that are happening with his ministry and around the world. And I say his ministry, but this ministry, because it's not just him. There's faithful brothers and sisters all around the world that are a part of not a group or an organization, but what sounds to be like a movement of believers. And so I wanted to just touch bases with Alfred Irizarry and talk to him. Now, Alfred and I met, I don't know, it was a little bit over a year ago or so through a mutual friend of mine that I know, a family that's very, very dear to me, that we go back all the way from our days at Eden Valley several years ago. And we got in touch through that way, and I just feel like what Alfred and the group at Juan173.org is doing is an important work. And so I don't know that too many people know what is happening in the Spanish community, Spanish-speaking community, and what is happening around the world. And so this is why we're here. I'm here today. So, Alfred, I got a couple of questions for you. How did you become a believer in the Father and the Son?
Well, that's an interesting question. I used to study with different people, and one time I ran into a Baptist minister, and we had good interaction. And he decided wanted to study different topics. We studied Sabbath, State of the Dead, and many other topics. And one time he had the strange request asking for help regarding the Trinity. And I said, well, that's an interesting time because it's the first time we're going to be working together to supposedly defend something, as opposed to debating each other. Through that research, I eventually learned that, you know what, the pioneers did not believe in the Trinity. Now, myself, I had not enough knowledge about the Trinity itself. I had not really delved into it. But one of the things I found out is that, you know what, the Bible is very clear around that topic. And from that, it started a revolution in my life. I remember I was in the SDA church. This was back in 1998. And I stayed there about 6 years, sharing with different people. Eventually, we decided that we need to get out and move out. And from there, it's been a blessing ever since.
All right. So, how did you become involved in ministry? How did Juan173.org get started, and how did you get involved with ministry?
Well, one of the things that we saw when we started as a local group is that there was a need for work to be done, and there wasn't enough people doing it. In our case, because we're oriented towards the Spanish community. That's my first language, and that's why we speak as a congregation at first. Now we're doing more bilingual work. But seeing that need, we started traveling to different countries, spreading the message, trying to translate different materials as well for the Spanish community. And that need is what has driven increased commitment into the work that needs to be done. And you feel a calling towards it. I mean, you feel that if you really believe what the Bible tells you, you want to share that message. You don't put it as it is something that you just can lay up on the side and forget about it. You actually need to get your hands, involved in it.
Okay, so Alfred, what countries are you currently working in? Obviously, you're here in the United States, but you're connected with groups of people in various countries, predominantly Spanish-speaking. So what countries are you connected with? Or I should say, do you have several groups in different countries that you're connected with? Why don't you share what countries those are?
Yes, we're currently doing a lot of work in Colombia. We're also doing work in Peru and Dominican Republic, and also the island of Leyte in the Philippines. And those are the areas that are at the moment that we have groups that are congregations work all parts of one group. And at the same time, outside of those places, we're also visiting other areas as well. But at the moment, that's where we're really very involved in.
All right, so you're here in the United States, based in Indianapolis, and you maintain communication with all of these groups, supporting. So just really quickly, what do you do here on a local level? Is it just here in Indianapolis? What is the work like here in the United States, first and foremost?
Well, as a group, we're working also in Denver, Colorado. And one of the things that we do locally in both locations is we do a lot of public evangelism, a lot of door-to-door, old-style evangelism. We also do like different health conferences, and we try to do different forms of outreach. One of the things we try to incentivize our members in is to share the gospel as if every one of them has a responsibility, because they do. In fact, they have a responsibility to share the gospel.
You had mentioned something about members. So your structure or your organization, I mean, is there membership involvement? Or how does that look on an organizational basis? Do people come under the ministry of Juan173.org, or is it just like more of a grassroots movement?
I would say we're doing both, because there is 8 congregations total between all those countries. And what the decision we have made is that we work together better as a body, working together, than each one doing something separately. And by this I mean not that they don't have their own local plans, because there's certain needs for every community. But if you have communication, you come up with different ideas, it benefits the whole body as a whole. The things that are being worked in, for example, in Colombia, that have an impact in the things that we do over here. So that's what we're doing at the moment, and it's been a blessing working in that manner, and increasing the collaboration. One of the things that, for example, some of the groups do, they do a Google Hangout session every single day, and we study the Bible at night. So that's something that impacts everywhere at the same time.
Right. There's something else that you're a part of that is coming up in May, and so of course I got to give a pitch for this because I'm involved in it as well, and that would be a...
Well, that's basically a camp meeting, but it's not just any camp meeting, because it's a prayer camp meeting. And we're aiming, or at least those involved are aiming that we can set aside some of the different dividing issues of the moment, and we can just get down and pray. That's one of the goals. I think between all the things that we're doing, is probably one of the bigger things. Because the name of the ministry, like I say in Spanish, is Juan173, and it's not just so much about John 17:3, as in verse 3, is everything that engloves, or at least is part of that text. And within that prayer, Jesus asked for his people to be one. So when we work, whether it be other countries, even with people who are not involved directly with the ministry, we're trying to promote the unity of God's body. And then that's what we're hoping to do in collaboration with other ministries here in the United States, in that camp meeting in Mena, Arkansas. And
that is happening in May 26th through June 1st. So I got to throw in a pitch for that since 2019. So if somebody's watching this video afterwards and it's already past May or June 1, then it's too late. We'll plan it.
Well, we hope they hear good things about it.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about Colombia. You're in. There's a group of people in Colombia, believers in Colombia. Why don't you tell a little bit about that? How many congregations are there, and what's going on in Colombia?
Yeah, that's some of the most exciting things that we're doing. There's 3 congregations there. There's in Bogota, Antioquia, and there's San Juan de Rama Meta. And some of the things that are being planned there, the first one of those is the medical missionary school is designed to be styled after the Madison Institute.
Madison,
where there's some medical training where the students are involved in the production of their own meals, in a sense. They cultivate, they also learn treatments. And at the same time, there's a lot of work in the evangelism itself.
Now that's outside of Bogota?
Oh, the place we haven't yet been able to purchase a location.
Okay.
But we are doing right now fundraising towards building first. The first phase is we divide the project in 3 phases.
Yeah.
First one being a bakery, which we hope produce bread that's healthy and at the same time can produce a certain level of income to try to raise funds for the purchases eventually of a land and the things that are required to build this school.
So, and Bogota is a pretty small city, isn't it?
Well, Bogota is a city of 8 million people. And in fact, they make us look like a small town here in Indianapolis. and some of the things that you see the people involved, though, even though it's a big city, normally when you hear about big cities, you think that people are not as fired up for the Lord, but it's actually seen the opposite of that, at least in that location. And one of the things that we're seeing is that people are involved on a very personal level, as a group level, and we hope it keeps growing forward elsewhere. So
there's great work to do in Bogota, Colombia.
Yes, there is great work to be done in Bogota and elsewhere.
And you have now I have here that you have 3 congregations. Are they all in Bogota or just around Colombia?
Well, there's the congregation in Bogota. There's one in Antioquia, and there is one in Meta, which is San Juan de Rama.
Meta instead of Mina.
Yeah.
So this Madison type style school is patterned after a true educational model, which includes like industries, bread making, agriculture, more geared towards that style of institution, outpost center that's to reach the city. And that's a I know that's a burden for your mother because she keeps on telling me about it and wants to make sure that we talk about that. So it's a very special project. Now, how much progress do you have or have you guys made on that? Because are you currently have everything you need to start this bread making industry, or like what are some of the needs at this time for that?
Well, we're starting really in the early phases. Right now we're in the fundraising phase. We just started recently this December fundraising, and we haven't had a lot of funds come in, but at least with the amount of funds that have come in, we started purchasing some of the items, oven and things of that nature that we need to start that bakery. So we're hoping to start this February actually making bread and start from there going on to some of the different things that we hope to use on that bakery for. Awesome.
So you're also in Peru. Tell us a little bit about Peru, and I'm going to try to pronounce the name Piura. Piura, how'd I do?
Very good, very good. So one of the things that we noticed about Peru is that there was a lot of interest in learning more about the Godhead message and so forth. And we sent a brother from one of the congregations over in Colombia, and he visited. And there was about 21 baptisms from that effort. So, and they're being fired up. They're a young group, and we hope to be able to
a young group.
Yeah, young group in all senses, because they got a lot of youths in that group. And we hope that they can also be sort of like the foundation for the rest of Peru, so they could help and spread this message.
That's exciting, because what Alfred was telling me and showing me that when some of these groups are meeting on the Hangout app, that there's quite a few young people that are involved, quite a few young people that are on fire for the truth. So you're maintaining contact with the groups down in Colombia, this group in Peru, and now also another group in Dominican. Tell us about the Dominican.
Yes, the Dominican Republic group is very interesting. We go back with them that we have visited them before, but then eventually we saw the need to be working more together. This is a common message, because you see how when you work together, you work better. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more things that you can do. And that group right now is based in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. They started with a radio station this December that goes live on Radio Pueblo, which is a station over there, 1510. And every Sunday they have an hour where they discuss different topics relating to World Be the Godhead, or certain truths like Sabbath and so forth. And it goes live on the local radio. At the same time, we live stream it on Facebook.
Awesome. The last
About Philippines? Or?
place that you guys are connected with is the Philippines. So you're working primarily with Spanish-speaking countries, Spanish-speaking groups and individuals. But now it seems like you're in the Philippines. There's kind of like a disconnect there. So why are you guys in the Philippines?
One of the things that you see is that, well, number one, God does not just want one people, one group in particular.
Yeah.
So you try to share as much as possible. Well, one of the sisters in our local group is from the Philippines, and she shared the truth with her family members, and they have accepted it. Eventually, they decided to start a group over there.
Yeah.
In fact, of all the groups that are involved with us, and they're the ones that started first. And it's been great. They're right now in Leyte, the island Leyte, in a small town called Cananga. And from there, we've been able to see a lot of effort that they have put up in building a lot of their building structure already for like a church.
Really?
So in a sense, they actually have a location, like their own building as opposed to everybody else. So
okay. Even
though you could say that they have the fierce resources, at the same time, they've been blessed a lot from it.
So what are the needs there at in the Philippines? The work is going forward there. They got a structure and a place of meeting. And what are you hoping to do there in the Philippines to expand the work?
In regards to the building, they still need a restroom. They need windows for the facility.
Yeah.
Things of that nature. But one of the things they do need is workers, and there are a few volunteers that we hope to be able to eventually get as full-time workers. That's one of the things that is needed there. Full-time work in the ministry. It is hard for us in a sense because as you mentioned regarding the language. We cannot just simply travel over there. I mean, if we did, we just wouldn't be able to speak in their language.
Yeah.
Except Bueno, in particular because the language they speak there is not the main language, it's Tagalog. So that presents a challenge, but there are people who are already willing. So what we need is to be able to get them to work on a full-time basis. And right now, we don't have necessarily the funds for it, but we know that the Lord will help out.
And that's it's very important. I think one thing that's exciting to hear about all of these groups and people everywhere. But I guess number one, I didn't know what is happening in the other countries. We're kind of defined in our little bubble, sometimes in the United States or our own language or Facebook groups or things like that. But in reality, God's truth is going. Or the truth about God's truth in who he is and his son is going forward all around the world and to all sorts of languages. Now, this may not be apparent for everybody that is coming. There's been a lot of new people like myself that have come in within the last few years, and we're kind of getting oriented because there's people everywhere, but there's not really an organizational, it's kind of hard to find where people are at. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video with you or just talk with you about it is so that it can bring up an awareness about what is happening in the work that's going forward and the needs that there are in other countries, because I know there's groups in Africa, on the continent of Africa, in Asia, South America, that don't quite get the awareness as maybe some of people like myself, yourself, and the brethren in Australia get. And so there's a lot of financial support that can be directed to the work in other countries that perhaps are not getting. And so I just wanted to highlight that, and because if we believe this truth and love the truth, then we want to see the truth go forward everywhere. And it will in the very end of time. Now, between all of these different groups, you maintain some sort of unity without any kind of overarching hierarchical structure. So how do you maintain this sense of unity and what are the things you're doing to do that?
Yes, like you mentioned, there are different setups. There's the high hierarchies, and there's also those that are congregationalism. We work in the middle, where we actually have discussions every month. Every first Sunday of the month, we meet together. We arrange it so all the countries have representatives, or as many as can want to join in. And they can join part of those discussions, and we discuss things that are specific to different fields. For example, in the Philippines, one of the projects that we have going on, and we're going to be having somebody worked over there for 6 weeks, 2 missionaries. So that's one project that we try to see how we can help out all together among ourselves. In Bogota, there was a need for a minister, so we all chip it in together to help have a full-time ministry over there, because it's necessary. You see that need. At the same time, it also gives us the benefit of being able to help the different localities in a more organized fashion that you would see if everybody was working independently. If you don't have communication, you're really not going to get a lot of progress going. You need to be in contact with each other. It's supposed to be part of the body. When the Bible uses the analogy of a body, well, imagine if your heart didn't communicate with the rest of the body, or if your brain didn't communicate with the rest of the body. Everything needs to be in communication to work well and orderly, and that's one of the things that we see a need of, and not just with those who are involved in John 17:3 or Juan173 in Spanish, but with those involved in other ministries. And we're actually doing that. We are in communication with ministries in Argentina, Spain, Mexico, and other areas, and we're trying to work together as much as possible. We're also involved in study and dialogue with ministries that we may not see eye to eye with, and we've been able to study weekly outside we actually set a day during the week to study together the different issues that are sort of like dividing us. So it's been a blessing, and we're looking forward to more collaboration wherever possible.
So you're meeting every month, every first Wednesday of the month. You're also doing a special meeting as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, we do a prayer and fast service where we get brothers from different parts of South Americans and other locations actually, and we do a broadcast, a live stream online. And we have people joining also in the chat, and they put their prayer requests. There's some who already submitted from different channels, through different channels. And at the same time, we also hold sort of like a devotional. We have different testimonies that are either videotaped or given live. There's also people who want to submit songs of praise, and worship. And
you're doing a lot of live streaming service as well?
Yes, we do. We live stream locally, but we're also doing now that, for example, we're broadcasting for different locations. Last weekend, our broadcast was from Bogota, Colombia, and that is shared worldwide. So that's something that is very encouraging. They get to see what's being done over there. A couple of weeks before that was from the Dominican Republic, and this week we hope to broadcast from here. So that is. That's one way that we let people know of what's going on in different places.
So you have all of these groups around the world: South America, Philippines, Dominican, and let's say somebody wanted to support one of these groups, because I believe we need to be thinking about how we can support groups like this in other countries that aren't as blessed as we are. So how do they send support, or first of all, how can people support the various projects and groups, and how would they go about doing that? Would they send let's say financial support to you specifically, or to them? So once you run that down, and then maybe share a little bit about how to connect with you and your website.
Yes, so if you're interested, for example, in helping out in Peru or helping out in Colombia, we can get you in touch with those groups directly. I think the most efficient way to be able to give support to one area is to be able to do it directly. We are able to do it for you if that were the case. We make sure that they get the funds. But the best way to do it, the most efficient way to do it, is we can get you in touch with them, and there are different ways to do it. And at the same time, it's something like a supply, say a camera or something of the kind. We also can get you in touch with them, so you can do that. You can help them out in that way.
So, what's your email address? How do people get a contact with you?
Yes, you can contact me several different ways. You know, I'm in Facebook, Alfred Irizarry, but at the same time, our email is in Spanish is Vida Eterna, which means life eternal. As VIDA ETERNA at Juan, which is John, JUAN .org.
173.org.
173.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just say something in the end, it would be that you don't need to be a large congregation to be active. Many people know it. Sometimes they hear us, oh, you guys are in different countries. You must be having a lot of funds or a lot of money or anything, or a lot of people. Yeah. But it's actually we're a small congregation. We're about a dozen. About 12, 14 people, most. And sometimes we have times where there's a lot of movement within the Spanish community. So sometimes we're down to 8, and we're still active worldwide. So it doesn't take much to be able to participate and be active elsewhere. And not just locally, because locally there's things that need to be done, but with the international community as a whole. So that's one thing I would encourage people to be active.
So thank you guys for watching. I just want to encourage you to get in contact with Alfred and see how you can support him and the ministry of Juan. I keep saying Juan, but I keep saying Juan173. But it's what is Sesente?
No,
I'm so bad at my Spanish.
Juan173.org.
.org. So okay, I got the .org and I got the Juan right, but it's Juan173.org or Juan173 if you're English speaking like me. But go over there, contact him, and support the work that is happening around the world. It's very exciting. God's blessings to you.
A line of truth extending from 1844 to the time when we shall enter the city of God was made plain.